Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Jones. First tonight, a sentencing hearing for a Massachusetts man who pleaded guilty to murder in January turned into a courtroom brawl as a member of the victim's family leapt across the barrier and rushed the convicted killer. Our David Ledford was there and captured the moment on camera.
This is the scene that erupted moments after Justice Robert Mullen handed down a sentence of 45 years in prison to 20-year-old Jason Serval.
I believe the family and friends of this poor young girl need closure, and I'm convinced that the sentence I'm imposing today is lawful and will survive any appeal if one is filed.
Serval pleaded guilty to the 2022 murder of 20-year-old Alice Abbott of Skowhegan back in January. Soon after the sentence was given, the defense asked for a sidebar. It was at this point that Abbott's brother left his seat and quickly moved towards Serval. He was stopped by a corrections officer with a stun gun and handcuffed. Other members of the victim's family began shouting and moving towards Serval after the initial incident, but were stopped by officers in the courtroom. On July 16, 2022, police reportedly found Abbott deceased in a camper on her grandparents' property with several stab wounds and lacerations. During sentencing, Serval apologized to the family.
I know no matter how sorry I am or however many times I apologize, I'll never ease the pain. I can't imagine the pain and grief I put you through.
Leading up to the courtroom incident, several members of Abbott's family gave statements asking Mullen to give Serval the maximum sentence. Serval was sentenced to serve 10 years concurrently with the 45-year sentence for an aggravated assault against Nick Rice of Madison, who was also inside the camper at the time of the murder and was reportedly struck multiple times on the head with a crowbar by Serval.
And that was our David Ledford reporting. The Hancock County Grand Jury has indicted Winter Harbor's former fire chief. 51-year-old Tatum McLean was indicted for aggravated criminal invasion of computer privacy. McLean was also the subject of an investigation into events that allegedly took place during his former position as the fire chief in Gouldsboro. Court documents allege McLean intended to defraud or deceive another person or government of payroll warrants exceeding $1,000. On to the legislature now. The Maine House has passed a bill aimed at lowering Maine's rate of suicide deaths. LD 2119 would study allowing individuals to voluntarily and confidentially add their own names to the federal Do Not Sell firearms list. That would prevent them from potential future gun purchases if that person is experiencing a suicidal crisis. The voluntary Do Not Sell measure has already passed in Utah, Virginia, and Washington State. Representative Vicky Dudera, who sponsored the bill, said, quote, "In 2021, nearly 89% of our state's firearm deaths were suicides. Those who reach for a gun during a suicidal crisis rarely have a second chance. But this innovative policy empowers suicidal people to proactively act to promote their own health and safety," end quote. The measure faces further votes in the House and Senate. And the Maine House and Senate have approved a bill that would lower taxes for most Mainers while raising taxes for those in the largest income tax brackets. If signed by the governor, the bill would adjust Maine's current brackets to reduce taxes for low and middle income earners who make below $144,000 annually. It would also create 3 new tax brackets that parse out how those making more than $144,000 a year would pay. Only those making over $500,000 would actually see an increase in their taxes. According to a spokesperson for the Maine Revenue Service, that means approximately 2,900 individuals in Maine would actually see a tax increase in 2025. If approved, state revenue, though, would jump by $570,000 next year. Well, a Hamden native is going to lead the state's medical examiner's office. Governor Janet Mills has appointed retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Alice Briones to serve as Maine's chief medical examiner. Dr. Briones returns to Maine after a military career that included becoming the first woman to lead the U.S. Armed Forces medical examiner system. Well, at the end of March, city officials, along with outreach workers, conducted a cleanup day at a homeless encampment behind the Hope House. Residents took to Facebook today after the signs surrounding what is known as Tent City in Bangor were moved. Our Doug Banks reached out to the city to find out why.
On Friday morning, members of Bangor's Parks and Recreation Department moved notice signs surrounding a homeless encampment known as Tent City, located behind the Hope House in Bangor. The signs read, "This area is temporarily closed to the public. Camping, parking, or other public use is prohibited. Any personal property left behind will be collected." According to Bangor's communications manager, David Warren, these signs were moved to clarify new boundaries of the encampment following a cleanup day in late March. As these spaces in Tent City become vacant, the city moves the notice signs inwards to establish a new closed area and to address large debris fields. According to David Warren, no one was asked to leave, and quote, "All outreach workers were aware of this, and we are just continuing our past efforts."
They think we're homeless for a reason. We're not homeless for a reason because we want to. We're homeless because we can't find a place to live.
Rory Spring has resided in Tent City since March of last year. As Tent City begins to shrink in size, his camper only neighbors Cleveland Street.
I'm outside because I can't be in there dealing with other people that have issues that can't deal with people. And I just keep to myself and just keep going.
In Bangor, Doug Banks, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
To our south now, some Old Orchard Beach residents are wondering what will happen next after learning an attempt at buying their mobile home park has failed. They learned that a different offer from an unknown buyer was chosen instead. And as Mal Meyer reports, there were a couple of reasons why this didn't work out.
Well, I understood it well, and I think a lot of people did.
Earlier this year, Old Orchard Village and Atlantic Village residents were notified of a potential sale. Some quickly banded together in an attempt to give a counteroffer and create a cooperative.
As residents of the park, we would have met and taken votes and decided as people who lived there what was going to happen.
In the latest letter to the community, the current owner said the unidentified buyer is a, quote, family business and has assured them that there will only be one rent increase for at least the next 12 months.
There's just absolutely no way to know that. Once he sells it, it's not up to him anymore.
Management didn't respond to our request for comment. With a $40 million price tag, supporters previously estimated that rents could have gone up by about $400 a month under the co-op. Too much for Dominique Hopkins, who didn't want to be part of a resident-owned community. Now she's put her trust in the former owner's word and hopes it wasn't a mistake.
Yeah, so many variables.
Rock in a hard place.
Yeah, exactly. But right now I'm just going with my gut that the Popes are being honest.
I'm just going to try and stay positive and hope that the way that it's going will end up being okay for everybody.
And that was Mal Meyer reporting. Well, even when the weather warms in early spring, it's important to keep in mind that the water is still very dangerous, especially for swimming. It's Cold Water Awareness Week, and we have some simple steps you can take to stay safe. The National Weather Service in Gray, along with the Maine Warden Service and New Hampshire Fish and Game, want to make sure you know the dangers of cold water temperatures. Now, this time of the year, the ocean is in the low 40s, and that can cause major problems if you fall in or choose to go for a swim.
The water temperature lags pretty far behind. For example, the water temperatures in the Gulf of Maine at the Portland Buoy are still in the low 40s. And depending where you are in the region, lake-wise, it's 30s to low 40s. So, when somebody falls into that water, if they're not wearing a life jacket, that could lead to drowning pretty quickly. When somebody has that shock of that cold water, you have an involuntary gasp, and that usually leads to people sucking in water, which starts the drowning process. That's why if you have a life jacket on, that reduces the chance of your head going underwater and when you gas, sucking in the air.
Well, to avoid any chance of drowning, it is best to wait until the water temperature increases. And if you do plan to go out on the water, you'll want to avoid windy days with big waves. You should always wear a life jacket, and it's a good idea to tell someone where you are going and when you expect to be back as well. Well, speaking of the temperature and conditions outside, let's check on that with a first peek at our forecast.
All right, thank you very much. Your first weather is brought to you by Downey's Trailer Service in Ellsworth, offering parts, sales, and full service repair on all trailers. Your local Load Right authorized dealer. Stop by or call us today at 207-813-0007. Let's talk about weather and temperatures hanging out near 60 across the area today, but you know, it was cloudy, it was windy, and it felt cooler with the rain showers out there as well. There are still lots of rain showers out there currently, but they'll become less numerous across the region tonight into tomorrow. There's still some showers left tomorrow, but not a lot left over. The bulk of the heavy rain is now pushed off toward the east. It's still breezy, though. Winds out of the southeast around 18 miles per hour tonight into tomorrow. We could still see wind gusts near 30 throughout the day tomorrow. Our forecast then tonight, though, is mostly cloudy skies, still breezy, a couple sprinkles out there with low temperatures in the 40s. Your full forecast is coming up.
All right, thank you, Jeff. We will be waiting for it in the meantime. Still to come on Fox 22 News at 10. It's time for a favorite event that helps Mainers get outside and on the water. And if you need the help of a physical therapist, Husson University has a solution for you. Those stories and more local news when we come right back.
You're in the driver's seat. You choose what road to take. But soon you'll be taking a back seat to big government, because President Biden just banned most new gas-powered cars. They've made it clear it's their way or the highway, even if electric vehicles aren't right for you or your family. Call Senator King. Tell him to stop the car ban before it's too late. Don'tBanOurCars.com. Paid for by American Fuel and Petrochemical Manufacturers.
Mesothelioma is more than a ravaging illness. It is a disease that can ruin a family's finances and is never the victim's fault. The law offices of Joe Bornstein has been fighting and winning for Maine families for nearly 50 years, and we've collected over $500 million for injured Mainers. If you or a loved one is a victim of mesothelioma or asbestos-related lung cancer, call Joe today for a free case evaluation and to learn about your family's legal rights. Dial 207-CALL-JOE or online at joebornstein.com.
We had to take out our old gas heating. That was a huge project. I was so overwhelmed, so I started contacting people off of Angie to work with people that knew what they were doing. It was a game changer.
Get started today at Angie.com.
Ugh, when is my allergy spray gonna kick in?
You need Astapro.
Astapro?
It's faster, bro. 8 times faster than Flonase.
It's faster, bro.
It's faster, bro. It's faster, bro.
It's mom to you.
Astapro starts working in 30 minutes. Astapro and go.
Hey, Red Sox fans. You've got to play You Pick'em Red Sox at foxbangor.com. Local weekly winners receive prizes from Chase's Family Restaurant and Hideaway Lounge or from Chick-fil-A. Register now at foxbangor.com. You Pick'em Red Sox is sponsored by Blind Faith Tattoo, Bangor, K&M Auto, Holden, Old Town Redemption Center, and Twin City Tile Brewer.
The Memphis Showboats take on the Birmingham Stallions. The United Football League, Saturday at 7 Eastern on Fox.
Saturdays, baseball's best are showing out on Fox.
We're having way too much fun.
Where MVPs are VIPs. All the swag, all the salt, and all the slam. The biggest games on the best day of the week. Fox Saturday Baseball, all season long.
Welcome back. Well, it is a rite of spring, and it's happening right now. Those who love to get out on the water definitely wait around for the annual Old Town Canoe annual Scratch and Dent sale all year. Now, despite the less than perfect conditions, it is now underway at the Bangor Ski Rack.
It's a great annual seasonal event that everyone gets excited about because it's blockbuster savings and it kind of gets people in the mood for the upcoming summer and to recreational paddle and fish.
Whether it's an obsolete color, a tag that's upside down, or a boat with a scratch, everything is at least 20% off, but Hopper says most are 35 to 50% off. He says folks are coming in to replace boats for the upcoming Kenduskeag Extreme Canoe Race or just for pleasure as well, and that sale runs through Sunday, so get out there and get on it if you're looking for one. Well, free physical therapy assessments will be available at Husson University next week. The free assessments come courtesy of the Soaring Eagles Healthcare Clinic, and they'll be conducted at 79 Marshall Road in Bangor as part of the 3rd annual Husson Harmony event taking place on the 15th and 17th of April. Husson's highly capable physical therapy students will be conducting all of the assessments, going over tests for balance, heart health, and flexibility, among other things.
You'll go through about 7 of those stations, and then at the end you receive individualized education because you'll have a student coming through with you so that they can take down some of your needs and some of your goals, what are your physical goals, and then at the end you sit down with the students and you can have a educational session on whatever relates to your individual needs.
The information to schedule an appointment can be found on our website, foxbangor.com. Well, a Clinton woman will be participating in the Boston Marathon on Monday, fulfilling a dream that once seemed out of reach due to a medical condition. Our Matthew Jurancic shares her story.
After being told she might never run again, Kelly Wiswell is defying all odds and is determined to cross the finish line at this year's Boston Marathon.
I keep going up and down between excitement and nerves. It's been a 6-year goal that is finally coming to fruition.
Kelly's journey to the marathon wasn't easy. She's been a runner since high school, running her first half marathon in 2015 and her first full marathon 3 years later. But in June 2020, at the age of 34, she suffered a stroke. The stroke ultimately led to her developing gait apraxia, a condition that affects how an individual walks.
Initially, my foot just had a little bit of a drag, slap, nothing crazy. My arm was worse than my leg. And then over the probably 6 weeks following the stroke, my gait changed 3 times. My left leg, my knee bends every time I take a step.
Kelly says she didn't let this set her back. She used the time spent in physical therapy and trained on her own to make her dream come true. The hard work paid off. She's continuing to do what she loves as one of the nearly 23,000 running on Monday.
There's a lot of validation of all the time that went into the training and the rehab and proving that it can be done even when you get told you can't or when you get obstacles that come in your way.
Wiswell says she hopes her story inspires others.
There's a lot of wanting to show my kids not to give up on their dreams no matter how hard they are.
In Clinton, Matthew Jurancic, ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
And we have no doubt her story will, in fact, inspire others. Wiswell will be running as part of Dougie's Team for Autism, a Doug Flutie Foundation-based program that looks to improve the quality of everyday life for people and families affected by autism. You can donate to Wiswell using the link on our website. And coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, former President Trump and his lawyers are gearing up for his first criminal trial. And the renewal of a controversial U.S. spy program hangs in the balance on Capitol Hill. We'll have those stories and more as the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22 continues.
For years, I've been inviting you to do business with Down East Toyota. Now let's hear from a customer.
I bought my first Toyota at Down East 24 years ago. 12 Toyotas later, I don't need to go anywhere else. For my family or delivering my coffee to customers, Toyota's my choice. From the service department and mechanics to the sales team and the ownership, I couldn't ask for anything more from Down East.
Thank you. We hope you'll soon discover that all roads lead to Down East on Wilson Street in Brewer.
Let your creativity run free at the Creative Arts Center, where we offer fun and affordable activities for all ages. Birthday parties, pottery wheel classes, painting lessons, or just for the fun of it. Get fired up for glazing projects as well as acrylics. We offer a wide selection of ceramic products for you to choose from, and we have thousands of pieces ready to paint. We are a Paragon kiln dealer and a Laguna Clay distributor. Stop by the Creative Arts Center today, located just off the Joshua Chamberlain Bridge in Brewer. The Creative Arts Center, where your only limitation is your imagination.
Transform your surroundings with Paramount Paving, located in Bangor. They are your paving and seal coating experts. Whether it's residential maintenance to full commercial projects, Paramount Paving delivers quality that lasts. Book before June 1st and enjoy a $250 Visa gift card upon completion of your next paving project. Call us today at 602-8931 or visit us at ParamountPavingLLC.com. Paramount Paving, setting the standard for excellence. When it comes to paving, we are Paramount.
Tired of your internet service constantly letting you down? Those other providers may promise the world with their flashy advertisements, but are you truly having a good customer experience? Fear not, because there's a new player in town. Introducing GoNet Speed. No more endless hold times or automated responses. We're here to listen, support, and provide you with the exceptional service you deserve. Our fast, reliable fiber internet, it's mind-blowing. Let us show you what true internet satisfaction feels like.
This summer, a family trivia competition where brains and balls collide. Avoid the splash. Get the cash. It's television's ballsiest quiz show.
Why are they risking you?
She's the oldest. She's had enough time to live.
The Quiz with Balls premieres Tuesday, May 28th.
Who says size doesn't matter?
On Fox.
There's one number you need to know. It's called Joe.
Former President Trump and his lawyers are gearing up for his first criminal trial ahead of this year's election. And despite attempts to delay the trial, jury selection is set to start Monday morning. Fox's Connor Hansen has the details from New York.
Donald Trump is expected in court Monday for the start of his criminal hush money trial in New York City. It's the first time a former president has been criminally charged, and it's the first of Trump's 4 indictments to go to trial. 12 jurors and 6 alternates will be selected.
They don't have to find people who've never heard of the case. They have to find people who, despite having heard of the case, say they can be fair and impartial.
Lawyers will not be allowed to ask jurors about their voting history, political contributions, or party registration. Trump and his lawyers have tried repeatedly to delay the trial, but were unsuccessful. Many critics have been skeptical of the case from the start.
Well, I've been critical of this case since it was filed. This is the weaponization of the criminal justice system.
The saga stems from an alleged payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels during his 2016 presidential campaign to cover up an affair. Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. He's accused of using his business to cover up reimbursements to his former lawyer and fixer, Michael Cohen. Trump has denied having a relationship with Daniels. In the meantime, he'll be taken off the campaign trail.
Every single trial that you read about and that you report about, and generally fairly, every one of these trials is run by the DOJ and the White House. Every single one.
The trial is expected to last about 6 weeks. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
The renewal of a controversial U.S. spy program used to stop foreign terrorists and drug traffickers still hangs in the balance on Capitol Hill. It's known as Section 702, and it allows the U.S. government to spy on non-Americans overseas without a warrant. Critics on both sides of the aisle say it's been misused against Americans. Fox's Rebecca Castor is in Washington and has details.
On this vote, the yeas are 273, the nays are 147.
After hours of debate and a failed vote earlier in the week, the House of Representatives voted to reauthorize Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA.
We have to allow our national security professionals to have the best information possible to keep Americans safe.
The intelligence community wants control. They want to continue to have control without any checks.
Section 702 allows the U.S. government to spy on non-Americans overseas without a warrant, such as suspected terrorists, hackers, and drug traffickers. But sometimes Americans are caught up in the surveillance.
We have to give the FBI the tools they need to keep us safe. At the same time, we have to protect Americans because that's been abused too.
That's why there was a bipartisan push to include an amendment requiring authorities get a warrant to sift through the data of Americans, even if the true target is a foreigner. but that effort failed at the final second.
It would have killed FISA. I mean, it would have killed our ability to connect the dots from international terrorists to what they want to do domestically. And
it's just saying get a warrant. I don't think that should be that hard.
But the drama did not end when the gavel came down. As House members left the chamber, there was a motion to reconsider the vote, which must be addressed before the Senate can vote on Section 702.
It's been tabled until Monday. This is not off of the House floor.
The White House, FBI, and CIA all pushed for Section 702 to be reauthorized. The bill passed Friday renews it for 2 years, not 5, as supporters originally wanted.
And that was Fox's Rebecca Castor reporting. Well, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is fighting to keep his job. He's heading down to Mar-a-Lago in Florida, hoping a shoulder-to-shoulder appearance with former President Trump will help his prospects on Capitol Hill. Fox's Doug Luzader has more from Washington.
The Speaker of the House has a number of things piling up here on Capitol Hill, and his job could be on the line today as he seeks some backing from the former president.
We have a lot of things to discuss, talk to him frequently, so looking forward to seeing him in person. It's been a few weeks, and it should be a good trip.
House Speaker Mike Johnson, a man on the move today. He'll be departing in overcast Washington for sunny Mar-a-Lago in Florida this afternoon, hoping images like this will help him keep his job and move forward with a cohesive agenda. His efforts to move ahead with aid to Ukraine and the renewal of controversial surveillance authority for the FBI known as FISA have created deep divisions within his party.
Right now, he does not have my support, and I'm watching what happens with FISA and Ukraine.
Georgia Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly threatened to try to remove Johnson as Speaker, but she is also loyal to Trump. And that's where Johnson's pilgrimage to Florida comes in.
The extreme MAGA Republicans are taking orders from their puppet master down in Mar-a-Lago.
Democrats may be heckling Johnson, but there is also the possibility of common cause. If the Speaker puts his job on the line, for instance, to secure Ukraine funding, Democrats may back him in the face of GOP critics.
There are a reasonable number of Democrats who would not want to see the Speaker fall as a result of doing the right thing.
And put that in the category of politics making strange bedfellows here on Capitol Hill. In Washington, Doug Luzader, Fox News.
Looking abroad now, Israeli officials say they are ready to respond to a potential attack from Iran and that could come soon, according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal. Multiple countries are now issuing travel warnings for Israel. Fox's senior foreign affairs correspondent Greg Palcott has more.
Israel's military making preparations to defend the country following Iranian threats of a retaliatory attack. The Wall Street Journal citing sources that say a direct attack on Israeli soil could happen as early as Friday. It comes days after Iran blamed Israel for an airstrike that killed top Iranian military leaders in Syria.
We are in close cooperation with neighbors and friends in order to prevent harm to Israel, and we will know how to respond.
The fears prompting the U.S., Britain, and France to issue new travel guidelines for embassy staff in Israel. The Biden administration reaffirming its commitment to Israel on Friday, adding the U.S. is taking a look at its own military posture in the region.
We will support Israel, we will help defend Israel, and Iran will not succeed.
But defense experts say it's possible Iran could launch a smaller scale attack, with Iran's supreme leader reportedly wanting to avoid a full-fledged war with Israel and the United States.
Iran knows that war with them would destroy their regime economically, and also they would likely lose it.
Still, a potential attack on Israel is raising fears the war in Gaza could expand into a much larger conflict and displace more people in the region.
We are stocking tents and supplies and working with all these countries in doing their own contingency plan.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has acknowledged that Israel is preparing for possible challenges outside of Gaza. In London, Greg Palcott, Fox News.
And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, wicked weather is hitting multiple regions of the country, including parts of the eastern U.S. And in sports, the Elliott Lamb Memorial Stream Race returns on Saturday. What makes this event a must-see? Well, that story is coming up.
Is this the start of a dynasty, a redemption tour, a breakthrough, or is this the makings of the wildest ride you'll ever witness? Any questions?
Hood is the cottage cheese lovers love. Start with our award-winning country style. It's delicious on its own, or like this. That. Even, sure. Plus, it's got more protein than hummus and less sugar than yogurt. Then there's Hood's flavors. We expertly blend in real fruit or savory herbs for an unbeatable taste combination you can't recreate at home. Now that's cottage cheese. Hood cottage cheese. Always good, always Hood.
Refine, your local expert in window and door installation, carpentry repairs, and commercial facilities management. At Refine, we're proud to offer Maine-made Paradigm windows crafted with care and precision to ensure quality and durability like no other. From quaint cottages to bustling businesses, let us refine your space with our signature Maine-made touch. Trust Refine to exceed your expectations every time. Contact us today and let Maine craftsmanship elevate your home or business. Rise with Refine.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
Family owned and operating in the Bangor area for more than 10 years. Crosby's Welding is here to help you. We specialize in steel, stainless steel, and aluminum welding and fabrication. We serve many of the local industries from Maine lobstermen to the commercial trucking industry and everything in between. Fully mobile on-site construction services right down to custom signs and fire pits. Fast, friendly, reliable service. Give us a call today for a free estimate, 974-7815.
The Legacy Sandwich, where you can find quality, homemade sandwiches that are made to order. When it comes to food, we take it seriously. That's why we serve shredded chicken and turkey on our sandwiches, and our bacon is cooked fresh daily. To pair with your sandwich, we also have a selection of homemade soups, macaroni salad, and baked goods for dessert. The Legacy Sandwich, voted Bangor's best deli sandwich shop for the past 12 years running. It's not just a sandwich, it's a legacy. Give us a call today.
Asylum claims from Russian citizens have surged since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It's more personal for soldiers who say they've seen combat and don't want to fight this war. And they're taking drastic measures and big risks to get out of service, but it's creating a conundrum for Western countries who are sitting on their asylum applications. Fox's Griff Jenkins explains.
Few asylum claims from defected Russian soldiers are winning protection. Western policymakers are divided over whether to consider these Russians as potential assets or spies and war criminals. Many soldiers who deserted are facing criminal cases. In Russia, they're looking at 10 years or more in prison. Many live in hiding.
There is no way for Russians who do not want to fight to get to a safe place.
Get Lost, a group run by Russian activists, have supported more than 26,000 Russians seeking to avoid military service and helped more than 520 active duty soldiers and officers flee. It could be a key indicator of morale in the country.
I didn't want to serve in a Russian army that destroys cities, kills civilians, and forcibly appropriates foreign territory.
I'd rather sit here and suffer than go there and kill a human being because of some unclear war, which is 100% Russia's fault.
One deserter admitted he had his friend shoot him in the leg to get out of service. Another showed a video of him putting his military uniform in a trash bag. And with Ukraine aid expected to come up on the House floor next week, some are appealing to the U.S.'s bottom line.
It's much cheaper to allow a healthy young man who can work into your country than to supply Ukraine with weapons.
There's been a lot of political back and forth over Ukraine aid in Washington. Former President Trump has allegedly urged Hill Republicans to block its passage, instead pushing to secure the southern border. In Washington, Griff Jenkins, Fox News.
In other news tonight, Uber riders are getting new safety options for their trips. The ride-hailing company announced a new safety preferences section to let users access all of its safety tools in one place. The features can be engaged as default settings for everyday rides or customized for particular rides depending on time of day or location. Audio recordings can also be enabled on trips through the settings. The features are currently available in the U.S., Canada, and Latin America. Well, thousands of people without power across the eastern U.S. as severe storms slam the region, and it comes days after the system tore through the south. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more.
An hour of rain just turned into the whole city kind of flooding.
Severe storms drenching the eastern U.S. overnight, forcing water onto streets and into homes and businesses. Damaging winds leaving thousands of people without power. Near Pittsburgh, emergency crews made their way through flood currents, looking for people who may need to be evacuated. Emergency shelters are open for people displaced by the flooding.
When your house floods, it's just a mess to have to deal with that. A lot of stress, a lot of things to try and deal with insurance companies and getting people to help you clean up.
This line of storms also put parts of the Gulf Coast underwater on Thursday, dropping more than a month's worth of rain in some places. In Florida, the system spawned twisters that damaged homes and toppled trees.
My dad called me and said, hey, tornado just hit the house, you got to come home. They got under my mattress in my bedroom, and they were afraid.
And just days earlier, it bulldozed communities from Texas to Mississippi, leaving at least 2 people dead. The National Weather Service says at least 5 tornadoes touched down in the region. Thousands of homes and businesses remain without electricity.
Be patient without power right now. Let us do our job so we can get everything at least cleared and to where everybody can at least get some kind of function back in their lives.
Forecasters say the system will leave the East Coast by Friday night. In New York, Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Alrighty, folks, well, coming up, we have our full 5-day forecast. Keep it right here.
The rain showers out there now will become less numerous overnight tonight. Tomorrow, though, still a couple showers around, followed by a very nice Sunday and Monday. Details on that when I come back.
When the acres add up, so does the work. The Kubota LO2 series is ready for it. Part of the #1 rated tractor brand for durability and owner experience, it features powerful, dependable Kubota diesel engines, performance-matched attachments, and the versatility to get the job done right.
Available at Doors Equipment, 1468 Outer Hammond Street, Bangor.
Bipolar 1, I got help to push back.
I got help to push back.
We got help to push back with Lybalvi.
Once daily prescription Lybalvi is proven to treat manic or mixed episodes of bipolar 1 in adults to help you push back. Elderly patients with dementia have increased risk of death or stroke. Do not take Lybalvi if you are taking opioids or are in opioid withdrawal. The samidorphan in Lybalvi can cause severe opioid withdrawal that can lead to hospitalization or increased risk of life-threatening overdose. Get emergency help if you have trouble breathing, become very drowsy with slowed or shallow breathing, feel faint, very dizzy or confused, or have a fever, stiff muscles, rash, swollen glands, or problems with your liver, kidneys, heart, or lungs. Other serious side effects may include high cholesterol, weight gain, potentially fatal high blood sugar, uncontrolled body movements which may be permanent, dizziness upon standing or falls.
Are you ready? Ask your doctor about Lybalvi. Looking for copay savings? Text copay to 45286.
There are plenty of good reasons to have a dock at your camper lakefront home and to choose a ShoreMaster Premium Dock System or Floating Poly Dock System from Hammond Lumber Company. Lightweight and durable, ShoreMaster high-grade aluminum docks are easy to install and maintain, and poly docks are perfect for dealing with deep or fluctuating water levels. Both offer a wide range of available configurations. There's a ShoreMaster or Poly Dock system that's right for you, and you'll find it at Hammond Lumber Company.
John Hamm stars as Detective Marvin Flute in Grim Bite. Big Bite. Grimsburg. All new Sundays on Fox.
Here we go. Your full weather is brought to you by Varney Ford, the nice car and truck people. Let's talk about the weather today. Okay, the weekend's here, of course. It's now safe to use your outside voice, but careful, still some showers out there tomorrow before some sun shines back in the forecast for us on Sunday. All right, low temperatures today, 45 here in Bangor, 43 in Monaca. So all rain across the region today with temperatures well above freezing, and there's still a couple of showers out there. Now, after we did this today, 59 here here in Bangor, 58 for Millinocket, 54 for Greenville. Very comfortable air, but this is above average, but it felt cooler, as you know, with that gusty southeast wind and also the rain showers across the area for today. Speaking of wind, here we go. It is dying down on the southeast around 10 to 15 miles per hour. We will get some gusts tonight near 25 to 30. That will keep coming down tomorrow throughout the day as well. The bulk of the heavy wind is now shifted off to our east, so we had wind gusts earlier near 50 miles per hour. That's now done, but still breezy, likely through tomorrow into Sunday morning as well, with those winds across our area. Okay, going forward, though, we have temperatures today hanging out near 60, but lots of rain showers, felt cooler. We'll get a break in the action, though, for several hours tonight as a dry slot works in here this evening. That will likely turn off the faucet for several hours tonight into early parts of tomorrow morning, and then some sprinkles are back in the forecast throughout the afternoon tomorrow, as there's still lots of system to the west of us that's all kind of moving in our direction. So overall, the showers are not quite done with us yet. This system gets out of here and then becomes a very nice Sunday into Monday and Tuesday for us, followed by another wet system gets in here most likely Wednesday into Thursday of next week. Let's walk you through tonight, though, looking at lots of clouds out there, but notice a break in the action. Here's tomorrow, about 3 o'clock in the morning, the faucet's turned off, and they'll likely stay that way for several hours. Here's 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, looking at dry conditions still for most locations, but then the wraparound moisture gets in here. We'll get the showers in the forecast for us tomorrow afternoon into early parts of tomorrow evening. Then we're done, though. Sunday looks like a nice day for us with temperatures hanging out in the 50s, low 60s. There could be a couple light rain showers in the area later on Monday morning, but overall, most of us will probably stay dry from that. And then Tuesday looks good as well, and Wednesday followed by some more weather getting here late Wednesday and Thursday. All right, so the bulk of the heaviest rain is over, but still maybe a tenth or a half inch of rainfall is on the way. Still kind of messy out there for tomorrow. Our forecast, though, for tonight, though, is scattered rain showers are still out there. Several dry hours, too. Look for low temperatures down near 44, so all rain with a gusty southeast wind. For tomorrow, all right, so scattered rain showers again. Again, many dry hours tomorrow as well. High temperatures back up near 60 once again, kind of like today with that southeast wind around 15 throughout the afternoon. And then looking ahead here, 5-day forecast shows that rain chance tomorrow. Several dry hours. Sunday, we turn off the faucet, mostly cloudy, 58. Monday looks great to me. Partly cloudy, high of 60. And then low to mid 60s are back in the forecast for Tuesday.
So happy to see lots of sunshine heading our way soon. That is great news. Thank you so much, Jeff. Sports is also heading our way. Stay with us.
Great Scott! This is Green Bear 420 in 2010. What kind of trip is this? I gotta get back to 2023. Wait, it's 2015. So much has changed. In 2023, we had a lot more glass, t-shirts, and novelties. It's gonna take a bolt of lightning to get me home. Finally, home at last. Now Green Bear 420, Green Bear Green Care is bigger and better than ever. To be continued.
So, all of us are here to talk about trading. Right now at US Cellular, you can get a new phone without having to trade in your old one.
Trade you my PB&J for that phone.
No, kid, you don't have to trade. See? $830 off any phone at US Cellular. No trade-in needed.
You drive a hard bargain. Boom. Chocolate milk.
You don't have to trade. I'll take the chocolate milk.
Okay.
Get $830 off any phone. No trade-in needed with any unlimited data plan.
Welcome to 207 Wellness, where transformation begins from within. Embark on a journey of self-betterment with our comprehensive services from weight management to IV hydration, vitamin supplementation, and neurotoxin injections. 207 Wellness is here to support your wellness goals. Take the first step toward a healthier, happier you, rejuvenate your body, refresh your mind, and reclaim your vitality with 207 Wellness. Transform your wellness, transform your life. Give us a call today.
I'm glad I got my colonoscopy when I did, right at age 50, because they found a large tumor. I had absolutely no symptoms beforehand.
If you're 50 or older, ask your provider about screening for colon cancer. Today, you have options for colon cancer screening.
I'm celebrating 6 years cancer-free and thankful for every minute of it.
Did you know that it's possible to prevent colorectal cancer with regular screening? Learn more at screenmaine.org.
Tonight's Sports is brought to you by Triumph Professional Cleaning Services, providing outstanding commercial cleaning services to Eastern and Central Maine. Triumph Professional Cleaning, creating an environment of cleanliness.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Well, if the April showers weren't telling enough, a further sign that spring is here. The stream race season in Maine is underway, and tomorrow afternoon, the annual Elliott Lamb Memorial Sawadappscook Stream Race returns. Our Ryan Sudol has more.
The tides are high, and people will surely be holding on for Saturday's annual Elliott Lamb Memorial Sawadappscook Stream Race.
There's going to be a lot of people that are kind of pushing their limits as far as what they can paddle. And I think that's going to make for some extra excitement.
The race is one of the first for Maine's stream season, and even though the buds are barely coming out of the trees, and it certainly doesn't feel like it, spring is in the air.
We're coming out of winter, and we just love to get outside again and do what Mainers do. We're tough, and we love to be here and just be outside and enjoying it with each other.
There are 3 courses to choose from. Downwater course, a short course for the newbies, and for folks like Alex Horn, a strictly whitewater course to cut out the middleman.
The rapids are kind of challenging, but it's a really fun course. There's some good drops, and people get really excited about that, and I know Elliot got really excited about it.
And no wonder this race is named after the late Elliott Lamb. The Orono native and whitewater enthusiast passed away in 2015, aged 22, and this was his favorite course.
He really loved just canoeing the stream in his off time, so when he passed, we just took it on and wanted to do it as a Memorial Day where people could come together and paddle with him, with the memory of him right here locally.
And with the constant community of people that come together each year to race in his honor, Horn, Lamb's girlfriend at the time of his passing, says it's no surprise.
I think that it's just a testament to the fact that we love him and we love this river, and we're happy to be here.
In Hamden, I'm Ryan Sudol, ABC 7, Fox 22 Sports.
Thanks for that, Ryan. Always fun when stream race season is upon us. Let's go to the baseball diamond now. Maine baseball opening up an America East Road Series this evening, playing the Riverhawks from UMass Lowell down in Lowell. Picking it up in the 5th inning, Maine trailing 2-0. Lowell has the bases loaded, looking for more. Jeff Mossow on the bump, and he gets Ryan Procto to lift one to left center field, and Maine gets out of the jam. They would do the same in the 6th. To the 7th we go, same score. Maine with them loaded. Dean O'Neill sends one up the middle. No throw made. Everyone is safe. Maine is on the board 2-1. Next inning, runner on for Jeremiah Jenkins, and Jerry rips one into center field. That's going to bring in Jake Marquez. The throw is a little high. We are all tied up, just a little high, 3-2. Maine now moving on. Same inning, Nick White at the plate, and he skies one to deep right field. Look at the bat flip. That one is way gone. He knew it off the bat. That makes it 5-2 Black Bears. They score all 5 in the last 3 innings and win it by that score. And those two will play tomorrow in Game 2 at 1 p.m. Let's move on now. A big congratulations to Mainer and former Red Sox minority owner Les Otten, who was recently inducted to the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame. As many Mainers know, Les is a giant in the winter sports industry. He was the pioneer behind Learn to Ski programs and the adoption of parabolic skis as well. He currently owns the Balsam Ski Resort in Dixville, New Hampshire, but prior to that was making his mark in Maine, owning both Sunday River and Sugarloaf, along with a handful of other resorts. Our partner Dave Eade caught up with Les about how he impacted the skiing world.
We changed things in the industry. We changed the way snow was made. We changed the way lifts were run. We changed the way people learned how to ski. And in order to do all those things, it took a large village of people. And it was amazing how many of us were able to get together and celebrate what we had accomplished for the industry at that time.
Our big congratulations to him. Let's time for some hoop now. Boston Celtics back home for the final 2 games of the season. They look to hit the playoffs on a high note, starting tonight against the Charlotte Hornets. No Brown, Tatum, Holiday, White, Horford, or Porzingis tonight. Will it matter, though? First quarter, Hornets down 1. They throw the lob to first-round pick Brandon Miller. He goes up, gets it, and throws it down. To the second quarter we go now. Boston up 5. Jordan Walsh, the main Celtic, gets the loose ball, goes on the fast break, and hammers it home. Celtics up 7. Minutes later, Celtics up 11. Peyton Pritchard on the break. Spins. Look at the no-look dish here to Neemias Queta for the flush inside. Boston up 13. Later on in the second, Celtics up 13. Pritchard finds space, and he rattles in the 3 here from the corner. Celts up 16 now, and Pritchard was cooking tonight. Third quarter we go. Celtics up 26. Pritchard crosses inside and drains the jumper. He had a career-high 31 points and 11 assists. Celtics win 131-98.
I was really just trying to make the right plays, take what they give me. I got some of my teammates going early, allowed me to get to my mid-range a little bit, but just taking what the defense gives me. The game's easy when you make it easy.
All right, that rings true every time. All the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
It was one thing when my mom got Alzheimer's, but then we started noticing things that seemed off. She developed agitation that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Sometimes she'd fidget with her fingers, get suddenly overwhelmed, and even throw things. And that was just never her. So we asked her doctor what else we could do.
Rexulti is the only FDA-approved medication proven to reduce agitation symptoms that may happen with dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. Rexulti can cause serious side effects. Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke, report fever, stiff muscles, and confusion, which can be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death, weight gain, increased cholesterol, low white blood cells, unusual urges, dizziness on standing, falls, seizures, trouble swallowing, or sleepiness may occur.
Rexulti helped reduce my mom's symptoms.
Take action for your loved one. Ask their doctor about Rexulti.
Higher shipping rates may be the cost of doing business, but at what cost?
Turn shipping to your advantage with low-cost ground shipping from the United States Postal Service.
Hello, Ghostbusters! It's Doug. We help people customize and save hundreds on car insurance with Liberty Mutual. We got a bit of a situation. Sure, I can hold.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
In theaters now.
Mesothelioma is more than a ravaging illness. It is a disease that can ruin a family's finances and is never the victim's fault. The law offices of Joe Bornstein has been fighting and winning for Maine families for nearly 50 years, and we've collected over $500 million for injured Mainers. If you or a loved one is a victim of mesothelioma or asbestos-related lung cancer, call Joe today for a free case evaluation and to learn about your family's legal rights. Dial 207-CALL-JOE or online at joebornstein.com.
When is my allergy spray gonna kick in?
You need Astapro.
Astapro?
It's faster, bro. 8 times faster than Flonase.
It's faster, bro.
It's faster, bro!
It's faster, bro.
It's mom to you.
Astapro starts working in 30 minutes. Astapro and go.
Hi, I'm Angelina Mucci.
And I'm Andy Mucci of Family Fun Bowling Center.
When we want to know the weather, we go to foxbangor.com.
Celebrating our 50th anniversary year, Family Fun Bowling Center has 20 lanes of 10-pin bowling at its best.
Welcome to MasterChef Junior.
This looks better than half the dishes come out of my dad's restaurant.
MasterChef Junior, all new, Mondays on Fox.
Reboots, prequels, and renewals are all part of the latest in the Hollywood nation. Here's Fox's Ashley Dvorkin.
Did you ever meet Richard Roper?
The night manager is back on duty. The Star Trek universe expands, and a Melrose Place reunion is underway in the Hollywood nation.
I'm here to see you.
Amanda Woodward, Sydney Andrews, and Joe Reynolds are planning a move back to their old West Hollywood apartment. According to Deadline, a reboot of the hit 90s show Melrose Place is in the works at CBS Studios and is being shopped around to other networks and streamers. The follow-up will take place years after the original series, with Heather Locklear, Laura Leighton, and Daphne Zuniga reprising their roles. The original aired for 7 seasons on Fox between 1992 and 1999.
You will always be a child of two worlds.
The Starship Enterprise plans a voyage back to the big screen. Paramount Pictures is developing a prequel to J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot, which starred Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto. The film will be an origin story set decades before the 2009 revival. Abrams is on board to produce. Tom Hiddleston will be back on the night shift. Amazon MGM Studios and BBC renewed The Night Manager for 2 seasons, with the Loki star returning as Jonathan Pine. Season 1 aired in 2016. Season 2 will take place 8 years after the Season 1 finale. Hugh Laurie also returns to the spy thriller series as executive producer, but no word on if he will reprise his role as Richard Roper. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Birthday celebrations are underway today, or were underway today, for what is possibly the world's oldest gorilla. Take a look. Her name is Fatu, and she is turning 67 years old at the Berlin Zoo. The zookeepers there put together a full basket of her favorite foods in honor of her birthday, including fruits and vegetables. Gorillas are typically kept on a vegetable diet because fruit contains too much sugar, but since it was such a big occasion, the zoo says they would turn, quote, a little bit of a blind eye to the rules on her special day. A sweet treat here and there is okay. Fatou lives in her own private enclosure, but can have contact with her fellow gorillas if she feels like it. Chances are, though, she wasn't going to share her birthday basket. Happy birthday, Fatou. Well, the town of Holton is declaring their total solar eclipse weekend a success. Interim town manager Tim DeLuca sent out a statement earlier today saying the event's undertaking paid off. He said the event exceeded their expectations, and according to DeLuca, visitors from nearly every state and all over the world were in Holton to witness the event. He said residents were prepared and welcomed guests, and their visit almost certainly left them with a sense of community spirit. Us too. Well, there's a new art gallery in Brunswick that showcases the hardships the Maine fishing industry faces, but also the resiliency of the men and women at the center of it all. Here's more about it in this week's Destination Devon.
An artist's work is to tell the story, one way or another, whether it's writing or music, or in this way, visual arts. And you're highlighting their lifestyle, their culture, what makes them tick, who are these folks, right? And so that's kind of what I'm doing.
Matt Barter is a lifelong artist from the Acadia area, originally inspired by his fisherman father, who has a distinct passion for art.
My dad was my mentor, so I studied with him, and I learned who his influences were. And I started to study those artists like Hartley and John Marin.
Today, Matt curates and maintains his art house, the Barter Art House in Brunswick, where his artistic prowess knows no bounds, spanning multiple mediums and often upcycling materials like wood from the beams of dismantled barns or rope found along the coast. His newest series is a collection of work reflective of the recent hardships the fishing communities faced during and after the tumultuous storms early this year. The gallery is titled Lost at Sea, representing both what was lost and found after the storms.
We're not just talking about money, millions of dollars. We're talking about lives, boats, buildings, families that were really impacted, and it touched me deeply. And I wanted to do a show that was kind of inspired by the Maine fishermen and the resiliency, but also sort of an homage to the Maine resiliency, is that spirit that come back, just build back.
To check out Matt's art or to learn more, pay the Barter Art House a visit or check out thebarterarthouse.com. In Brunswick, Devin Dagnall, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
Definitely some beautiful work being done there. Alrighty, folks, well, that is going to do it for us. From everyone here at Fox 22 News, take care, and we hope you have a great rest of your night. We'll see you right back here tomorrow at 10. Good night, everybody.